Ron G, aka Your Console, the Net Worth Nation. With today's topic, interestingly enough, I wanted to get into the meat and potatoes as it relates to why I believe all state government, local employees must absolutely participate in their employee sponsored plan. I'm going to give you my five top reasons, okay? The five top reasons why all of you within the sounds of my voice, any of you in the school district, any of you in public sector, any of you in law enforcement, why you absolutely must get with it, get on it, and we'll do it in just one short millisecond. Here we go. So, what is the top five reasons, mine at least, why all of you out there should be participating in one or the other or both a 403B and a 457 plan? Well, the first reason is the captain obvious reason, or as we like to say, treating the proverbial elephant in the room as it comes and it relates to Social Security. Let's just be real. I think it's safe to say that the Social Security bus is closing in on its last stop. Now, again, we can go into a lot of the different reasons why this is happening, but just so that I can give you guys some context to it, Social Security is paid into it by the workforce of the United States, meaning that you've worked a minimum of what we call 40-hour work week for a minimum of 10 years. And your employer participates in the mainstream of taking a portion of your salary and putting it into your Social Security. Now, before we jump to conclusions, this was technically a sound strategy when you really think about it. You got everybody out here in the country working, everybody in the country pouring into the workforce, and even those people who worked under like a contractual agreement, they had the option to put money into Social Security if that's something that they wanted to do. So it was a very liberal operation. It made sense as long as everyone was willing to play, as they say, nice in the sandbox. Now, there were always going to be people in all generations that were going to want their money or their bag, as you say, under the table, meaning they wanted to get away from the tax man. Hey, just give me cash or do these types of things. And that's fair. But at the end of the day, under the traditional system, it should work. It should have worked. Now, does the government take portions of those Social Security proceeds and go out and try to invest it in what we call secure bonds and treasuries and all those types of things? Yes, they do that to grow the money and make even more profits happen so that obviously when the time comes to pay out, the money is there. Now, the one caveat had to be that everything had to function as planned. So if people decided that they did not want to contribute to Social Security, it should not have been a number that would affect, let's say, the bottom line. And I think that kind of worked out pretty well until the influx of undocumented immigration. Now, there's nothing wrong with people wanting to come to this country and have a better start and do better. And, as they say, pull your strings up by your boots and all that good stuff. That's fantastic. The only time there could be a problem with that, which it seems like in this case it potentially did come into being a problem, is when those individuals did not want to contribute to the bottom line of the well being of the system, meaning that in most cases, if someone like that was here and let's say they were strategically sending money back to the homeland, well, now those monies are not really circulating throughout the Social Security system. So that's one thing. Number four, I wanted to talk about the pension, the pension as it's currently constructed and devised. Now, for some of you who are in still the state and local sector, you are most likely still benefiting from some sort of pension, although a lot of states are running into funding problems and funding issues. Now, why is that exactly the case? It's sort of kind of similar in a sense to the Social Security, but a little bit differently. Like when I spoke about how they go out and do investments, securities and treasuries and bonds and all that stuff to grow your Social Security income. Well, pensions are surviving and predicating on the fact that they're also are doing well in the marketplace, that they're also doing well as the company continues to grow, right? And so I want my pension over at the railroad to continue to produce, right? So that one day when I go to retire, that I'll be able to get a healthy pension. But at the end of the day, there's no promises, right? And so what that means is that if the company is going through different types of financial struggles or different types of downturn or upturn or anything's happened in the company, that can affect the pension. Also, you have to have people in the state that are participating. If these companies are struggling to get high quality employees or good solid workforce to continue to pour into the company, as they say, and make those shares valuable. Now you're running into similar problems in the Social Security field that you're not able to have enough participation. And then when you count on the fact that a pension is actually paying for an employee that's no longer technically contributing to the bottom line any longer, right? So once you stop working, you stop participating to the bottom line per se, right? Because you're not contributing to the day-to-day workforce. And then you add the fact that now that employee now is living into their 70s and 80s, and in some cases even up into the 90s. Now, Houston, we may have a little bit of a problem, along with the fact that it does cost to run these plans. Nothing in life is free. And so a lot of those pensions are running into some of their financial issues. So, what is another top reason? My third reason is market volatility. Now, the stock market is a great place to invest. I'm not going to sit here and say, get out of the market, get out of the market. No, okay? Because if you get out of the market, that's not good, right? But what I am going to say is this: the stock market is just that, the stock market. And so if we look at the market as a retirement platform, now we can pretend to run into a concern. Because at the end of the day, your retirement is really not something that should be gambled with. Like, remember, what is the code of ethics, as they say, when it comes to investment? It says never put money into an investment that you can't or you're not in a position to lose, right? It's almost like when you go to the casino. If you can't stand to lose $1,000 in the casino, then you really shouldn't be in the casino. And so, because of that mindset, you have to think about the market in a similar way. Because as much as you earn in there, you have to be willing to take the risk of loss. And so, with that kind of halo or stigma or cloud hanging over you. I would say a cloud, not a halo. Yeah, you're kind of in that market and you're kind of holding your breath. Case in point, what am I talking about? What about 1998? For those of you that remember, you were young. The market hit a wall because of the dot com. All the people at that time that was on their way out the door took a major, major hit, maybe 20, 25% hit into their retirement. And then, uh, 8, 9 years later, that cycle repeated itself when the housing bubble burst. Same situation. You had people in the housing bubble that all of a sudden the market said, bango. And so all those individuals looking to retire during that time period took a major, major hit. A major, major hit. And some of them never actually recovered. And so then when you think about that and what I just said about gambling, and I don't mean to make it look like a gamble, but it is a lot of risk that you have to be willing to sustain in the sense of stock market, uh, in the field of the stock market. And so when you think about that type of volatility, that's another main reason why someone would definitely want to invest in the 403b 457 plan. Why? Because at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do about what the market does and does not do as it relates to when you are punching your ticket to retire. The next reason, taxes. Taxes. Taxes is by far the number one thing that no one can control. Now, whereas the tax rates have relatively stayed within striking distance of each other since the early 2000s, every give or take a percentage here or there, it's still an unpredictable scenario. It's still a scenario that's totally in the hands of local and federal governments, depending on, as they say, the needs of the business, right? And so as we see a lot of things going on in the landscape of this country in particular, it's not, I can't rule out that taxes won't go up, right? Now, again, why am I making that something significant for our people in the public sector? Is because your plans allow you to invest in tax or before tax products. So that's something that you have to think about when you really put the thought process to your retirement product. And the number one reason, the biggest reason of them all, is that you have to look at the five critical benefits that a 403b 457 plan holder has that many of their counterparts and others in other fields do not have. First thing is you're allowed to double dip. Many of you, whether you realize it or not, are allowed to have both a 457 and a 403b plan. Now, you probably say, Ron G, what is the significance of this? Either one of these plans, pretty much, don't they do the same thing? Well, here's the thing. For many of you that are in the catch-up market, that allows you the cap at 23.5 to save up to 23.5 per year in one plan, save up to 23.5 per year in another plan. So now you have two plans that allow you to level yourself up if you've been behind the eight ball. So now you can catch up. It also gives you a benefit of how to strategize yourself with the taxes, because you can get a Roth version of the 403b 457 or you can get a standard version. So that means you can have one plan before tax, another plan after tax. So now you can play both sides. So in that future, hey, well, one of my products was not taxed as bad because I paid tax on the seed. The other one, yeah, I paid tax on the harvest. However, I still balanced my portfolio in a way that allowed me to benefit completely from this type of dual benefit. So this is something that you do not, again, this is something you do not want to take lightly in the reality that you have two tax structures. Another dynamic reason is that it can survive market volatility in ways that no other products can through the caps and the floors. Now, for those of you that say, well, and I've had people walk up to me in presentations and say, man, I don't like the fact that you guys cap us off 13, 14%. What about when the market is climbing up to the 20 percentile? We're not benefiting from that. And I say, you are correct, but you also are not benefiting when the market nosedives. See, when the market nosedives, you stay steady at zero. And so what that means is that the monies that you've been pouring in there 10, 15, 20 years is still in there. So you have to look at things from all angles. Would you rather have the money that you put in there be in there? Or would you rather have the highest ceiling that you can have and then the lowest bottomless pit that you can have? And most people will say, well, I'm going to be in the market for quite some time and I should rebound. But the problem is, as I mentioned, and I'm going to say it over and over again, that's not the game that we play with retirement savings. That is a totally different game for a totally different play. And that play is not what we want here. We're talking about the top five reasons why we use our 403b and 457 employee sponsor plan. And that is to beat the tax game and to beat the market volatility. Another real dynamic reason is the death and sickness benefits that absolutely can be placed on these products at any point in time. You have to understand that other plans are not built to act as a death benefit. A death benefit gives you that extra level of protection along with a sickness benefit that could absolutely kick in the event that something unexpected happens to your health. We do not have a crystal ball to know how our health is going to be in the next 5 to 10 years. Yes, we pray and hope to God that everyone stays relatively healthy. But again, we don't necessarily make that call, right? So the death and sickness protection is an absolute dynamic. And the number one and last one I want to leave all of you with out there is something that I told you a few months ago on another Financial Friday. I said a retirement product is not a retirement product if it cannot do what? That's right. If it cannot pay you a lifetime income for the rest of your life. The rest of your life, don't know. Can live to be 70, 75, 80, 85, 90. Don't know. I'm not that guy up there. But one thing I do know is that our products will pay you an income for the rest of your life, whatever that lifetime is. And that, again, my friends, is something that other products just don't provide. So, Ron G, aka the Net Worth Nation, before I land this plane, let me leave you with this thought. If you are not taking full advantage of your state retirement planning and plans, you, my friends, you, not me, you are doing yourself a tremendous disservice. Ron G, aka your console, with the top 5 reasons why you must have one of those plans. Talk soon. Peace. Bye for now.